Conas to talk to. In this video, we're going to be fitting door stabilizers to this Suzuki Swift Sport Z32. Stay tuned. So what are door stabilizers and what do they do? Let me show you. On a regular car door, you have a latch like this, which connects in to this side in the door here. So basically you're going to replace this with a different design, and there's going to be some extra parts put on here. And the purpose of it is that it takes away any sort of give that this door has within the door frame. And the benefit of that is that the door itself becomes more rigid with the rest of the monocoque chassis, and it actually adds rigidity to the entire car because the door isn't kind of jiggling around in there and it becomes part of the structure. That's the theory anyway. And here is the standard door latch, which I've taken off the driver's side, and this is what replaces it. So you can see here, this has an extra piece of metal and plastic. And then on the door side, these are the extra parts that are added in along with this to hold it in place. So these two basically connect together. This rides up into these plastic bits like that, and they hold each other securely in place when the door is latched in. These are the only tools you'll need to actually do it. So this here is an impact driver. So you hit this on the end with a hammer just to loosen the screws to hold this in place. There's two screws to hold this in place, or two bolts. And then, yeah, just a couple of extra tools. So it's going to be very straightforward. I've already done it on the driver's side, as I mentioned. I don't know if you're going to be able to pick this up on the microphone, but I'll try and show you the difference of what I'm talking about. So listen to the noise of the door as it's closing. Now compare it with this side. You can see the latch is in place, and also on this side, the extra plastic pieces here. You can see some slight wear marks on here. So it definitely is making contact where those plastic pieces are touching. Has a very solid, deep thud on the driver's side, but this side feels a little more hollow and tinny. So I think they definitely are doing what they're supposed to do. So let's go on with the install. So just to quickly explain how these impact drivers normally work. The screws or bolts, they're kind of got a Phillips head on the end here, but it's a bolt, are typically in here extremely tight. You're not going to be able to just get a screwdriver in there, and you'll strip them out if you try and use power tools. So one of these is the best way to go. Basically the way they work is that they turn as you hit an impact on the end here. So with a hammer generally, the end of this spins slightly, like maybe only a quarter turn, but it's enough to just break it loose, and then you can take it off with a screwdriver. So the technique here is you fit it into the screw head, you physically try and turn it towards the opening in the anti-clockwise, and with that pressure down and clockwise turn, you hit it with a hammer here. Obviously careful to not hit your own hand. Okay, so just that couple of shocks was enough to break this loose, and now that's loose I can turn it with my hand. So I'll just do the same on the bottom. Kind of pressure in, making sure it doesn't fall out, and then turn your hand anti-clockwise. Okay, this one's a bit more stubborn. Okay, that's free. And now you can use a regular screwdriver to take these out. You will be reusing these as you can see, they have this locking nut here that helps it not loosen up. Okay, out with the old. And I might as well give this a little clean before I install the new one. So this one here is very straightforward on this side. It's a little bit more going on the door side. But basically you have a spring-loaded mechanism here. And this allows you to install the two bolts here, and then they're covered once it's installed. So I'm just going to feed these in here like this, just to get them started. The bush side goes in towards the body of the car. You kind of have to hold this springed mechanism back to get these screws installed. Okay, the way these parts are assembled on this side is that this kind of outer edge runs on the outside of the car. Obviously, you can't put it that way because it'll interfere with the latch. So it has to come this way. And these bushings go on either side like this, with the shallower end pointing towards the inside of the car. There is really only one way it can go. So these have like kind of little tabs that bend here on this, and they clip into little tabs, plastic tabs here on this side. So the way it works is you use the existing Torx head bolts here. You take these two out, you install this on here in between, and then these slide on. So let's get these bolts out first. Here's the bolt itself. They kind of have a little nylon edges on them, which is kind of strange. So you won't be able to see this when you're actually installing on the car, but just to explain how it works. This little tab on this side goes into this little bit here. So it's really only that main one on the edge that you need to put in. This other second tab here will just ride over a little hump in the moulding on this side. Right, anyway, let's get the metal piece on. Okay, that's all snugged up, so it's just a matter of getting these clipped on. I'm going to get some trim removal tools here to snug it up. Okay, clips in nicely, just so I don't scratch the paintwork. That is it, as simple as that. There's definitely a more satisfying thud as it's closed. For anyone interested in buying a set of these door stabilizers yourself, I'm going to let you know where I found them. So the main brand that you'll come across when looking for these door stabilizers is actually TRD, yes, the Toyota Performance brand. And they sell these to be compatible with a whole range of Toyota models and also some Suzuki models. And the same TRD MS304 is the model number. Is compatible with all these cars, and it does list that it is to be used with the Suzuki Swift Sport, but for the ZC33, which is a generation after mine, I couldn't find any mention whatsoever that it was compatible with my generation, which is the ZC32. But I just took a punt and decided to go for it. It looked the exact same from the images, and it worked out, so I guess it fits other cars as well. The TRD version is available to buy on a load of Japanese websites, including Yahoo Auctions and Amazon.co.jp. And the cost is roughly around the kind of 80 to 100 euro mark, typically on the upper end of that. The good news is that there are some alternatives. The company that actually makes it for TRD is Aisin, which you've probably seen on a load of Japanese parts. They're an aftermarket maker that make OEM parts as well. And Aisin have their own version of it. The only difference is instead of saying TRD on it, it says Aisin. And the cost is tiny bit less, so it'd be more likely to be €80 than 90 or 100. Those prices will be for 2-door stabilizers, and obviously if you have a 4-door car you're going to need 4. You can buy them sets of 4 as well. But let's say you don't want to spend that much, because yes, it might be €100, but by the time you add on shipping and you add on import duties, if you live in Europe, it starts to be pretty expensive. So after a look around, I discovered on Amazon.co.uk you could buy an imitation set for about €33 instead of 80, 90, €100. And I would have free delivery and I would have absolutely no import duties or taxes. So I decided that would make a lot more sense for me to just try this out and see what it's like. You can also buy them in a set of 4, which is roughly kind of double that price. The photos of the TRD and Aisin versions versus these other imitation versions, which obviously have no logo on them, they look identical. So there is a chance that they're made in the same factory. I don't know, but you know, they have a very simple task, and I would say it's not really worth spending the extra money unless you want to have the logo there for cool points or whatever. I'll drop the links down below for the Amazon.co.uk versions if anybody's looking to buy them. So I guess the question here is going to be, can you feel the difference, and is this a worthwhile mod? Well, yes and no. When you're on the road, I don't particularly feel any extra difference. I'm not tracking this car or anything like that, so I suppose if you're looking for every last bit of rigidity you could possibly find, maybe it would help on the track. But as far as day-to-day usage, the only thing you really notice is it sounds a lot more solid, which on these Suzuki Swifts, they're pretty light and tinny, so every little helps. I definitely think it's worthwhile based on the money. The cost of them is very, very cheap. If you bought the genuine ones now, however, I don't know if I could justify it. But pretty cool little mod and super easy to do. So long.